Hey everybody, it's Mark Ciszewski and Greg Keller at Revizto, and we're excited for you guys to join us with the Revizto 4.8 in-depth demo. So we're excited for everybody to join us, and thanks again for taking some time out of your busy days. Today we're going to focus specifically on Revizto 4.8, the feature improvements and enhancements, as well as some of the workflows associated with it. So if you guys are unfamiliar with Revizto, some of this might be a little bit too in-depth for 4.8, but we are going to focus specifically on the changes in 4.8. I think most of the people that are joining are pretty familiar with Revizto, so we're excited to show you what we've been working on for the last several months and taking the feedback that you guys have graciously provided us and putting it into action. Greg, would you like to kick it off?
Sure, Mark. If you want to give me presentation power, or I think I probably already have it. Let me know when you can see my screen.
We can.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Mark, and thanks again to everybody that's on the line here today. As always, we, like Mark said, we appreciate your time, and we know there are a lot of current customers on the line here, so we also appreciate your feedback, which is obviously what allows our development team to keep putting out these awesome features. So we really appreciate that. I'm going to get us kick-started here today with the stamps functionality, and I'm actually going to be demoing from the iPad today, which is pretty cool. Wanted to put together an effort to simulate a true stamps workflow in the field for punch listing and field verification as we work towards becoming an all-encompassing solution for coordination and issue tracking, really from design all the way through occupancy. So I'm going to start off in the 2D section here, which is obviously where all our 2D drawings reside in Revizto. Currently, the stamps functionality is available for creation in 2D only, but in the near future, we will be adding an update that allows us to drop a stamp in the 3D model as well. So we're looking forward to that. So I'm going to use an electrical sheet here as an example, and we'll just pick this.
Greg, I was going to say, for those people who aren't familiar with how traditionally issues have been created, do you want to walk through just a standard creation of an issue and kind of the time that takes, and then go into stamps? And I think it's going to be a really big kind of night and day difference. But for anybody not familiar, let's walk through kind of the creation of an issue on a sheet from an iPad prior to stamps coming out.
Without the stamps, yeah, sure. So we could use the same sheet. So if I zoom in here, and bear with me, guys, it may look a little delayed just because I'm doing this from the iPad and projecting it through the Zoom meeting here. But how it worked before we had our stamps functionality is, you could obviously open up any sheet, you could zoom in wherever you needed to and identify issues that you wanted to bring up to the team, and assign them to the respective member. So in the past, what you'd have to do is find the problem area and click this plus button up here towards the top. So doing that, it allows you to locate an issue pin of wherever that problem area resides on the sheet. And I'm just going to pick any random spot here and drop our tag here. Now, from here, it allows us to annotate this particular markup. So we can, just maybe draw an oval shape there to illustrate the problem area. We can add a call out here and type in some, sample text, and we'd have to title the issue here. And I'm just going to call this webinar test. So we click done, and that initiates the issue. But from there, in our information field, there's different criteria or different parameters that we need to apply towards these issues. So with the standard issue creation, you've got, like I said, we had to create our title. We have to set a priority depending on how it affects, project schedule or cost, whatever the case might be. So we add a priority. Maybe we're going to add a deadline as well of when we need this issue to be completed by. And then we have to come down and select an assignee. And just because it's Mark here on here, I'm going to select him. So we're going to make Mark the assignee. And then we would go ahead and add our issue tags, which, for customers that are current customers that are on here, you guys are well aware of our issue tags. So we'd come in here and we would add whatever tags we needed to for this particular issue. So we'll add September 15th as a date. Maybe it's a coordination meeting that we might be doing. We're going to add ABC heating and air. It's an HVAC issue, and maybe this is in the northwest area of the building. So as you can see, that it took a bit of time. There was some manual work that was involved with that. Now, ultimately, it ends up getting to Mark, and and he's going to be able to access that issue from whatever device he's using or accessing Revizto on, or whether it's within his design platform, or depending on what kind of issue it was. And as you can see in this test that I created, Mark has already responded. Hey, thanks, Greg, for finding this. Let me take a look. So ultimately, we get to the same spot, but there's manual effort that goes into that. As you can see, Mark has updated that markup, and we can see the running history of that. So that's kind of the typical workflow or the standard issue creation process of Revizto prior to the stamps. And if this was a punch listing, or field verification item, again, that would be something that we would add in the tags here. Okay. Whereas now with our stamps functionality, if I go back to that same 2D drawing, and I'm going to zoom out and just go to a different area here, just so we're not right on top of that same issue. But if I zoom in on this on my iPad, and I've addressed some issues, and we're doing a site walk, and we've identified a few electrical issues that need to be taken care of. So instead of hitting that standard issue creation button, I'm just going to click the icon right up in the middle that says ST, which is obviously our stamps creation. So now what I can do is we've done this ahead of time, but this is all things that our VDC technical and customer success team will help all of our customers kind of set up initially. There are default options that will come with the stamps once you have downloaded 4.8. But as far as customization, like I said, our VDC technical team would be happy to help you guys kind of put together whatever is needed. But I'm going to focus on, like I said, an electrical punch listing process. So as you can see here, some of the options that we've got: conduit damage, cracked light, electrical outlet. So I'm just going to grab, this electrical outlet stamp here with my Apple pencil, and I'm going to drop it here. And then I'll click that same, so maybe we've got an electrical outlet issue in a few different rooms here. So I'm just going to drop those in that particular place. You can actually adjust the size of the stamps on the sheet if need be. It's obviously not required, but if you wanted to make it a larger stamp, so that way it's pretty apparent when you open up the sheet, you can adjust the size of the stamp. But the important thing to point out here is that if you look, all I did was click on that electrical outlet stamp and drop that stamp in those 3 separate locations. So now what has happened automatically with just that one tap is that we've got specific colors assigned to, based on this being electrical in nature. We've got a title, which obviously says electrical outlet. We've got a priority established to it, and it's automatically assigned to Mark along with the tags of AC/DC electrical contractors and punch list. That's all done ahead of time. So it's literally as simple as me on site with the iPad and dropping those stamps on a sheet in the specific spot, and it automatically gets assigned to Mark. So there's no additional clicks required. So if I click over to this communication feed here, you can see that that gives us our initial markup, and it allows us to be able to communicate across that. Additionally, what this allows us to do from the iPad is create an issue and then add a picture there immediately. So maybe I'll pick a different. I'm going to pick this cracked light option here, and I'll drop it right where this headlight is. So now I've added that stamp, this cracked light, and now what I can do is come up here to attach photo, and I can take the picture with my iPad, and you guys would probably be able to see that momentarily. So now we've got that picture, that issue right within the feed. So now, on the flip side, if Mark, being my electrical sub, wants to access all of his electrical punch list issues, he can simply come over and you can set it up to where, when they open up Revizto, the issue tracker is what opens up by default. But what's really nice here, and again, as you guys can see, all of these issues that I just created are automatically tracked, and they've all been assigned to Mark with the priority level, with the tags. So process, dropping these stamps and having that automatic assignment. Additionally, I'll show you guys how the big piece, we're tying these punch list items into the actual BIM information and being able to access them in. What I want to point out is that from Mark's standpoint, if he opens up Revizto, the last thing he wants to see is, 430 issues. He wants to. So what he can do is filter option. And as you can see here in the custom filter settings, we've got a whole host of different issues that you filter by. Maybe in this example, I can click category and click electrical. So now it's now 15 issues, which is a heck of a lot more manageable than 430. So I can focus on what's important to me. Additionally, what would probably have been done is we would have set up a pre for all of the electrical contractors punch list items. So if you can see our pretty bad attempt at humor, zapped electricians, when I click on that preset, you'll notice how it gives the breakdown of the 6 issues that have been filtered to that preset, which you can do simply by coming over to the custom filter option and creating whatever filters you want based on all these categories, and then simply clicking Save as Preset, which is up there towards the top right. But I'm going to filter, let's see, clear those. And I'm going to filter by stamp category, go back to electrical. Okay. So in this particular case, we've got, let me minimize this. Trying to do this from the iPad here. Hold on one second. So these are all issues that have been assigned based on that electrical preset. As you can see, I can click on through here and it will relocate us to whatever sheet that was created on. If it was created on the same sheet, it will focus on where that resides on the sheet. But not only are we talking about these issues here in 2D, but because all of Revizto's issues are tied to the XYZ coordinate and not on a physical document, it allows us to have that intelligent tie to the BIM data. So, if I create the issue here in 2D and assign it to my electrical contractor, but he wants to be able to see and leverage where this information resides in the model, all he has to do is click over to 3D, and now you'll see that tag, that stamp is placed exactly where it was on that sheet, but now we are here inside of the 3D model and allows him to, look up, look down, look around and locate where he is in the model. Additionally with that, it's a couple clicks, but I find it pretty advantageous to, once clicking over to 3D and finding where that is in the 3D model, it's also helpful to be able to see, okay, where exactly am I in this model? So by clicking over to 3D up at the top and then simply clicking on our map functionality, which is the top left, you can see how it gives you that bird's eye view of where that is in 3D, and it tells me exactly what room I'm located in. So, I think those are all helpful things to be able to point out and get, have access to when we assign these issues to that electrical subcontractor. So, Mark, did I miss anything, or do you want to?
Yeah, let me. If I can share from my screen, I can kind of walk through stamp creation and some of the aspects around that we can't show on the iPad. But I think it's important to note that all this data is live, and all this data is pushed in real time. So if you're on site, hypothetically, if you have internet connection, this is going to be sent out in real time. If you don't, as soon as you get back to the job trailer, or as soon as you have internet connection, those offline issues will be resent. The beauty of this, like all other issues, is these specific stamps don't live in the physical model. So if we think about a PDF or a NWD or an Excel sheet where the data is physically living in that document, it's a non-dynamic document. So when NWCs are updated or the model changes, those graphs or PDFs or NWD fundamentally change. But if you have a local copy of it, there's no connection. Revizto almost functions more like a Google Doc where that information is updated separately to the issues. So those issues are living on the XYZ coordinate. Therefore, when the model updates and your sheets update, you're going to be getting all that information in real time.
And thanks for saying hello to us, Mark. Mark, are you able to take control back?
Yeah, let me share my screen here, guys. I just want to go through the stamp creation aspect, which we kind of skipped over a little bit. Stamps will be kind of taking over any issue being created multiple times. Issues, but having to manually fill those out, those in 30 seconds per issue. So any issue is that all these stamps will show up in markup as well as pins. So the beauty is we can see these specific markups, and obviously we always have the ability to come in here and push this to PDF. So any of these stamps can be printed along with any other markups that you have, like the one we made earlier in the webinar. We can print this directly to PDF and submit that. So let's go into stamp creation. So the first aspect of stamp creation is going to be at the category level. So we can come in here, and in this case, you can see that we've created several categories: architecture, design, electrical, fire protection, HNCB, HVAC, mechanical, etc. Site information such as site photographs. At the category level, we are going to create some standards or some templates essentially. So if I were to come in here and add a new stamp category, we're going to call this webinar. And maybe all of my webinar specific stamps, I want to have in a dark blue color. I want them all to be trivial. Priority, I want them assigned to Alex, as well as adding watchers such as John Phillips. This has been added to that aspect. So all I'm going to do is select done here, and then also we can decide, okay, for all of my webinar issues, I want those public. So obviously we might have an owner category here, or we might have a specific discipline where we want to keep those private. So anything added in there, we could choose to be public or private. And I think that's really crucial as well. That eliminates the need to having to go back and remember to click public or private on those issues. Just by default, anything within that specific category, meaning the only people able to see it are the watchers and the assignees. We can also add tags to tag all the issues in that specific category. Multiple tags. And when we come in a little bit further, and I'll just add up to 3 abbreviated letters. So RFI, we could add in, whatever symbols that are in your PIM execution plan. So all those do WT for webinar test. And we want to need the category of webinar test. As you guys can probably imagine, it's going to take on the characteristics of that category. So all of our webinar tests have these specific examples. So if it was a one-off, or maybe for some reason we need it assigned to somebody else, I'll come in here and I'm going to add in Scott, and we'll add Scott to this specific issue. So now we're only making one minor change to having to, opposed to manually having to fill out each and every single one of those issues. So to Greg's point, I think these are going to completely take over how issues are created and really accelerate that process. In a few, hopefully in less than a month, we should have those stamps out in 3D. And the beauty of this now is these tie into the 3D model, into VR, and we have a visual reference to know, okay, well, this is a kind of a pinkish color. We know that that's part of this discipline or this company, and we know because of its status is in open, we can click on it and we know that's an open status. So I move this to in progress. Obviously, when we come back, we're going to see that functionality change. So it gives a little more visual description when navigating through the model, whether it's in 3D or whether it's in VR or whether it's even on our map tool, we're going to be able to see the specific information and see exactly where those issues are, opposed to some of our standard issues, which don't really give that much data within there.
Yeah, a couple of points to add on to this.
Is from a reporting side. So as you guys probably can imagine, we can set up presets and filters based on stamp category or specific color or parameters within that. So once we jump into the reporting aspect, we come in here to our dashboard and we can start to create and live data. And stamps are approved or closed out, or photos are added, or things are added in areas or these graphs will fundamentally change. And this isn't living in a standalone document. We have the ability to come up here now, and we can choose a delivery method as a PDF or Excel or whatever.
I think maybe there's some audio issues, but we're getting a lot of feedback from the attendees that the audio is bad. I don't know if it came from my end or your end or both, but I think people are having a really hard time hearing. I'm not really sure what to do about that, but.
Yeah, it sounds like on both sides we've had audio issues. I have no issues, so I don't, and I haven't had issues with.
Me either. I hear you loud and clear. Apparently, it's the only people that really need to hear us well are the ones that are not hearing us.
Yeah, and we apologize, guys. I know how frustrating that is, and yeah, and. You know what? I am called in, so maybe I'll try to switch over to the PC audio and see. I can't imagine that that's much better, but I'm going to actually change that right now. Well, yeah.
I think the people that are called in audio-wise are hearing us a lot better than people who are accessing the computer audio.
Yeah, let's see here, guys. If somebody could write into the chat real quick around the Zoom audio, if you guys are called in, if you guys are still experiencing the issue, or if you guys are utilizing the audio component of Zoom.
Yeah. Would you be able to show the call-in number on your screen, Mark?
So it sounds like it's all from the PC from what I'm seeing.
Correct. Yeah. So if we can share that audio number.
Yeah.
Guys, if you guys can hear me, it's area code 669-900-6833.
Greg, can you type that into an issue and we can put that issue up on the screen? There, actually, somebody just put it in there. Thank you.
Yep.
So.
And then to keep that, the meeting number is what you'd have to put in for the meeting ID.
So guys, I'm going to put this up on my screen right now. hopefully we can all see this number. Greg, is that coming across clear enough for the U.S. number and Canadian number?
Yeah, it's good.
We'll give everybody just a couple minutes to call in if they're attached to audio. We apologize. This is one of our first Zoom meetings. We switched from GoToMeeting because we were limited, or GoToWebinar because we were limited to only a couple hundred people.
Everybody's already saying that. I said everybody's already saying that the audio is much better when they switch over to the phone. So I don't know. Maybe we should start over with our stamp issue and creation.
So we'll just give you a couple minute overview of stamps again for those of you guys that had a hard time hearing this. Our apologies for that. We should have addressed that, I guess, in the beginning of the meeting, but we'll know better for next time. So again, similar, we just kind of chatted about with a streamlined. So what I mean by that is when we add in, we only have to do it once. Stamps have our entire stamp. So we'll go back to what we created here for time's sake, and just we use webinar at category level. Our category is called webinar, and color is going to be blue. The title is going to be webinar, trivial, and assignee is always going to be Alex. Watchers are always going to be Sean, and big plumbing company is always going to be the tag. So that means any stamp that we create within the webinar category by default is going to have these exact same parameters. But the cool thing about this, instead of having to manually change, for example, with our actual webinar test stamp, if I wanted to change the assignee, there's only one thing I need to change, and I'll change it here from Dan McKinnon, or from Sean to Dan McKinnon. So once I add that on there, we're able to address that specific issue and only have to manually move one thing. So to what Greg showed earlier on the iPad, the beauty of this is now we can come in, and instead of having to manually click this, type in the issue again, and then manually fill out these 8 or 9 different fields, we can simply go back to 2D, hit the stamp functionality, and we're going to come down to our webinar test with our WT that is assigned to Dan McKinnon. And all I got to do is zoom in here, and we can just place those on there. So once I do that, I can actually take a photograph, take a picture of that, confirm if this is on site, take a picture of what that looks like, jot in any other notes, and it's all timestamped. What you'll notice is that all the information is pre-populated because we created this underneath the webinar stamp. And if I want to change one of the things, such as the assignee or the watcher, I can simply jump into here, type in Sean, and add Sean as the new watcher. So it makes it extremely simple to visually add in this. And then when we're looking at that specific sheet, we can see the data that's needed within there.
And guys, to add on to what Mark is saying, again, I think a lot of it got lost when everybody was on the computer audio, is that this data now with it, you know, not only being automated with one-click issue creation, all of that data and parameters automatically feeds into our real-time reporting and dashboard functionality. So not only do you have the actual issue creation process automated, but you've got all of that recorded in real time and automated through our reporting and dashboard functionality. Additionally, once we have the ability to create an issue in create a stamp in 3D above and beyond the 2D, we really see that as becoming the standard for issue creation in Revizto, because of the fact that those parameters are already set up, and we can just, you know, create that stamp, drop that stamp anywhere we want in the 3D model. And depending on what type of stamp that is, it's already, you know, assigned to who we need it to, with the proper tags, deadline, priority, watchers, anything like that. So sorry, Mark, I just wanted to add that in.
No, that was great. Good points, Greg. So now, as we can see from what we discussed earlier, visually this gives us a lot more information. So we can see these are clash groups and clash issues. These are installed status. These are open issues. We can see that this CG issue is in progress. So now, as we navigate or select the map, we have this intelligent view to give us more of a visual snapshot based on what we filtered in the issue tracker. So if I pull a quick filter, we'll add a specific assignee and we'll use Brett as an example. We're going to see a different amount of those issues when we come back to the map. So it's going to show whatever you have filtered and give you a visual idea. And obviously, if we want to navigate over there, all we have to do is double click and it'll take us directly into that room. So that pretty much sums up stamps. We're extremely excited for you guys to get into there and be able to test out the functionality of stamps. I think there's a lot of different applications for stamps. We've even seen folks utilizing it for site photographs and adding in site photographs and having a specific stamp color to specify where their photographs are at. So the next thing we want to kind of jump into was a few of the other minor aspects of Revizto that we've updated in 4.8. One of the ones that you guys have been asking about currently, and some of you guys might have noticed already, is 4K screenshots. This is a really good example. If we're going to create an issue right in here, typically when we went to go create an issue, we would come in here to mark this up, and this issue would look something like what you're seeing on my screen right now. So the beauty of 4K screenshots is we now have that granularity to be able to scroll into exactly what we need and have a higher resolution. So pretty straightforward. That was one of the minor things that we had changed. However, one of the bigger things that we've changed is direct and native import for OBJ. So this is kind of taking hypermodeling to the next level, and I'm going to jump into one of our demo models where we were playing around with some Matterport data for this specific project. So with the nature of Revizto and how XYZ coordinates work, we're able to just import directly an OBJ file. So I'm going to come into import. I can specify OBJ, bring in that OBJ file, and when we're utilizing systems like Drone Deploy or MeshLab, we can add in the coordinate scale based on what your project parameters are, and it's going to align not only with the model, but also the plan. So in this example, you can see we've fused together a section here as well as the reality capture data, in this case for Matterport, as well as the BIM data as well that we can see in there. So we see a lot of different applications for capturing existing conditions. And the beauty of this OBJ file format is because of its efficiency, we're able to open this up and utilize this with even the iPads on site. So it becomes really powerful, and we still have the ability to measure and calculate data from within there based on that OBJ. And lastly, one of the points we wanted to bring up, and this is a crucial one and something that's been asked for I would say probably the last 6 months pretty consistently, and we worked hard on bringing this for you guys, is backwards compatible and custom clash mapping. So if we select within Navisworks Revizto button, if we select the Sync Clashes button, we're actually going to bring up our standard icon here. The only difference here is you're going to see a status map setting. So one of the issues, and some of you guys may or may not have ran into this in the past, but what would happen is if we moved an issue to resolved inside of Navisworks, it would automatically push that issue to close, like we would expect. So the process inside of Revizto, once you have fixed your problem, or once you're working on your problem, you move it to in progress. Once you've adjusted that issue within the issue tracker back in the design software, you are actually going to come into here with this specific clash in our example, and I'll actually bring up a clash so we're not confusing anybody. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this specific clash to, typically we're going to move that clash to in progress while we're working on it. When that issue is moved to closed, we can come in there when that issue is moved to solved, that means that we have updated our NWC and reposted to the FTP site. So what happens now is when we jump back to Navisworks and we resync clashes and that clash is geometrically resolved and we resync clashes, those resolved issues map over to closed issues. They close Revizto out. This works perfect in theory. However, when we have issues that might just be clipping something that might be a field fix, we move it to closed in Revizto manually because we can see that that's going to be addressed in the field and it's not actually a clash. However, when we resync clash, Navisworks says, oh, it's still hitting, therefore it moves it back to open status, therefore reopening that same issue in Revizto. So we have backwards compatibility with that, and we allow you to map any status in Navisworks to any status in Revizto or vice versa. So as you can see, we can customize that for our specific project of what status we'd like to equal inside of Navisworks. The other beauty of that is once we come back into Revizto and we close that issue out, it actually resolves that back in Navisworks. So if you're looking at your Clash Detective and you're going through issues, and those issues should be identical to what you're seeing inside of Revizto. So the beauty of that also ties back into reporting. So our graphs and charts can now be, we can be confident that those are all up to date and 100% accurate, because when we move clashes that are going to be fixed inside of the field or that we need to manually move to close, we know that's fundamentally changing the dashboard and the graph as well as what's located back in Navisworks. Did I miss anything, Greg, on the bidirectional clash workflow?
No, I think you hit pretty much everything.
Good deal. So again, guys,
yeah, we apologize again. Yeah, we apologize for the audio difficulties. Hopefully, everybody got a chance to get a little bit more into it once you switched over to the phone audio. But this is being recorded as well, and hopefully the recording comes out a little bit better, so everybody would have the chance to access it again.
Absolutely. And so a couple quick updates before we let everybody jump off here. Again, we want to thank everybody for jumping on here. We're going to try to keep most of our webinars between this 30 to 40-minute range, and we're going to eliminate spending kind of that 20 minutes on live question and answer. So any questions that are posted in there, we're going to actually have somebody personally follow up to your question and be able to spend a little bit more time. I think we, a lot of times, sometimes gave half-hearted answers to some of those just because of the nature of having 35 questions to be able to get through. So that's going to be one of the shifts, as well as we're going to hope to push out a webinar every 2 weeks. And we're going to be doing this on specific topics. For a lot of you guys who have been joining our webinars for some time now are probably sick of hearing my voice, and lucky enough for you guys, we are going to be switching that up with some of our technical resources as well as territory managers around the globe. So every 2 weeks, we'll hopefully have a new webinar, and it's going to be on a specific industry topic. So we might focus specifically on punch list workflows. We might specifically work with how we integrate with PM systems. We have one on design review process. We have some on breaking down barriers between design and construction. So expect to see those every couple weeks, and they're going to be focused on by maybe a specific technical resource we have at Revizto or one of the territory managers that maybe came from a background of SAMPS or field workflow. So we're really excited to be able to push out some of that content, as well as bringing in a couple new releases in the next couple months and updates to 4.8.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks again for everybody joining up. We'll make sure to get your questions answered, and hopefully we'll be able to get a better recording out of this than what you guys heard live. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Bye now.